Hey guys, Jeff here, and I am from Rascal Beats Productions. Welcome to my channel. This is my first video tutorial on Sebene, which is a Central African genre, basically. I'll be doing a weekly tutorial or weekly tutorials on Sebene. I'll be doing some licks and riffs to help your performances. And I'll also be doing some basic theory topics which will increase your understanding about chords, melodies and rhythms. At the end of each video, I'll be doing a riff of the week tutorial, which will cover some riffs that I use when I'm playing live gigs, especially when I'm playing Sebene. There are some riffs that I always come back to. So I'll be showing you guys what those riffs are at the end of each video, and there's so many riffs, so each week we'll look at one and I'll show you one of the riffs that I use. So let's get straight into today's session. Before we begin, we're going to do a scale degree numbers. We're going to learn about scale degree numbers. What scale degree numbers is, it's basically replacing the notes with numbers. So let's say we're in the key of C, and C becomes 1, and then D becomes 2, E becomes 3, F becomes 4, and so on, all the way up to 8 or 1. So from 1 to 8 is a full octave. So if you were going to keep going up or within the other octaves, you would need to use that as a 1, so you can start back to 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that's basically what scale degree numbers are. I'll be using numbers instead of, let's say instead of chords. Okay, let's just say I'll do a mixture of them. I'll do some code names and some numbers as well for those who are trying to understand what the code numbers are. So today we're looking at a 1-4-5-4 chord progression. We're going to be in the key of C to help those who are still learning. So it goes like this. So I'm just doing a 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. So that's the whole chord progression for this riff that I'm going to show you guys. You can play it either way. You could do it with whichever inversion you want to use. I'm using that F and I'm using that G. You could either use that F or that G or that F and that G. You could use whichever one you want. I'm just using the one that's closest to my finger. Okay, moving on. So the riff goes like this. And it just keeps repeating like that. So it's 1, 4, 5, 4. Okay, really simple. So the way I think about riffs is I think about where I want to go and how to get there smoothly. So we in C, the first chord progression, the first chord is C. We want to go to F. So we can't just do a jump like that. We want to do something interesting in between so we can come from somewhere and arrive to that F safely. We can do whatever we want in between, but we just have to arrive on that F or any note in the key of F. So the way I thought about it is I'm starting on that C and I'm playing E, G, C. It's that different inversion of C. I think it's the second inversion. Okay. So that's that first run. So this is still in the C chord. Now we want to get to F. Now we could do whatever we want, but in this case we're doing this to get to F. See where we landed? We landed right on F because that's where the chord is. So I'm adding a passing chord, a passing note in there, and adding that E flat there to get to my F. It just adds a bit of flavor for me. I'm sure you've heard that somewhere. Okay. Now, the next chord is G, but I'm also using this G, this other inversion up here. This is the third inversion. So I'm using this inversion up here as well to get to G. And I'm doing the same thing because we're going back to F. And then, okay. So from the top. It's quite simple, right? Now, the beauty of this chord progression is that you can use it in any, let's say, the beauty of this riff, you can use it in any chord progression. All you have to do is find where you're going. If, let's say, for example, we're in the key of C, and instead of going to F, like the one before, we're going to go to G. So it's 1, 5, 4, 5, 1. So you could still do that riff when we're in 1, but this time instead of landing in F, we're gonna land on G. Okay. Okay, it's the same riff, but where you're ending is where the chord is. So you could end on any note of the chord. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's how I think about it. I'm gonna do any, you can do, okay, it doesn't matter what chord it's going to, you just have to make sure you land on the tonic of that new chord that you're going to. And then every time you change, you're landing on the new tonic. So the tonic is the first note of the chord, basically, so it's the 1. Okay, so let's change it again. Let me just give you another example. So we're in C. Let's say when I go to A minor. Okay, so now we want to do that riff again, but this time instead of landing on G like before, we're gonna land on A. Okay, so A minor, G, F, C, A minor, G, F, when we're in C. So it's a riff that you can use anyways. You just have to think about it, you know, on a theory side of things. Is really sit down and think about where you're going and what do you want to do with this, because it could be any chord progression in any 7 or any speed, anything. It could be any 7. What you have to do is you find that riff, you find the chords, where you're going is where you land, and you just keep doing that each time. Let's say I'll just show another example to show you guys that it goes with any chord progression just as long as you land on the chord. So let's say we're going from C to B flat to F to G. Well, what can we do there? So we do like this, because we're going to B flat. Okay, I'm sure you get the idea now. Okay, B flat, F, G. you can use that same riff on any chord progression, any 7 chord progression. And this is going to help you a lot, because you don't have to, let's say you get called for a gig, and you know it's time to just jam. You've done the performance, it's now just jamming, and you know they're playing 7 and you didn't practice this. It's not something you practice, and you start to stress out because you're asking yourself, what am I going to play, what am I going to play? And straight away you start to fall back into bad habits of, you know, playing the same old things that you play in your bedroom, or the things that you play on wherever you are. You play those little things. No, sit down and actually think about what the chords are. How can you play something that's going to make sense with what someone else is playing, with the musicians that you're playing with? Because if I'm playing with other musicians and they always changing chord progressions, I want to be able to hear what chord they're going to next, so I can land on that note. And once I land on that note, it fits in perfectly.